Hello. Long time no see. Welcome to my channel where I talk about lots of guide dog and low vision related things. And today I'm going to make, surprise, surprise, another guide dog video. I know I haven't gotten a ton of content out to you guys, but really this video thing is just what I do for fun with my free time. And currently I just graduated and I'm going into my master's and don't have a lot of free time, so I'm so sorry for the lack of uploads. But today I thought I'd just do something short and sweet and fun, and that is, as the title suggests, talking about how Cindy has really saved my bacon a few times. Cindy and I have been a team for a while now. We've had a lot of fun adventures, and she's done a lot of amazing things for me in that time. And today I'm going to talk about some of those amazing things where she might have even gone above and beyond her job in some of these cases to keep me safe. And really, I just wanted to showcase how amazing guide dogs can be and how helpful they can be. So without further ado, let's jump right into it and get into some stories. I'm going through these stories from least dramatic to most dramatic. I don't know if dramatics is the right word, but some of them are a little more intense than others. So we're gonna start kind of soft and then go a little crazier as the stories progress. And this first story has to do with Cindy guiding me across some traffic. At the end of last year, I was working with Cindy crossing an intersection. So when you cross an intersection with a guide dog, the person is responsible for telling the dog when to go forward, and the dog is responsible for telling the person when their decision or judgment is possibly wrong because there is something dangerous in front of them. What happened in this particular scenario is I gave Cindy the forward command to cross, and as we were coming to the other side of the crosswalk, she started to hesitate, which is a little odd to me because the dogs are taught to target the other curb, walk in a straight line, and stop at the curb. And so usually when you're crossing a street, they know exactly what they need to do, and they're pretty gung-ho to get to that other curb. We were about 3/4 through the intersection when she started to slow down, and she started to curve to the left. And this was very odd to me because the dogs, again, are taught to go in a straight line, and to the left of us, we had traffic. If anything, I thought she would turn into the idling cars on our right. But no, she was turning left. And obviously she stopped because she didn't want to go so far left that we actually walked right into the traffic, but she did not want to go straight. I didn't want to go into the traffic, and I didn't want to just be sitting in the middle of an intersection. So it's a team effort. The dog keeps you safe, but the person uses their brain, and you kind of work together to try to get past dangerous scenarios that you might be in. I didn't know what Cindy was stopping for. I trusted that she was being smart about it, but at the same time, I knew we had to get out of the intersection. So I really encouraged her. I said, Cindy, hop up, which means, come on, keep going, find where you need to go. So very hesitantly, she kind of crept up to the curb and stopped right at it. And I felt with my foot, felt that that was, yes, the curb, and told her forward. Blatant refusal. This is when dogs display intelligent disobedience, which you're going to see multiple times in these stories, but she was saying, we ain't going onto that sidewalk. I thought that was so weird because I didn't hear any construction, and we just walked this way. We were coming back from our route, and when we walked up, there was nothing wrong with that sidewalk. So I doubted anything had happened in the time that we'd walked up and back to change the environment enough to be really dangerous. So I was confused. Next second, a bike came speeding past us. So what had happened here was that a bike was on the sidewalk, and Cindy could see that they were coming directly for us. So she knew that if she stopped at the curb straight on, like she's taught to do, we would be directly in the bike's path. And this was not a going slow and chilling biker. It was I'm going fast down the sidewalk, probably 30 or 40 miles per hour. And it would have been potentially very dangerous because there wasn't a bike lane next to this sidewalk. So this person shouldn't have even been biking here, but he wasn't on the road, and he couldn't have turned into the road to stop because there was just cars right next to the sidewalk, and there was just buildings and walls on his left. So long story short, it was just the sidewalk, and he probably couldn't have braked in time to stop from hitting Cindy and I. So Cindy saw this bike, curved away from it, stopped at the curb, and refused to take me in front of him. And I didn't even know what happened. At first I had to kind of register because I heard really quick, he was going so fast that like I heard the wheels and I kind of heard the buzz and I felt the wind of him crossing by us, but I obviously couldn't see to know what was going on. Cindi had stopped us from walking right into the way of this oncoming bike in the middle of the sidewalk. So long story short, she's the goodest girl and did a very good job, and I am very proud of her. So let's change gears here and talk about hiking for a second. Cindi and I love to hike. We go several times a year, if not more, whenever we have the opportunity. In this particular occasion, this was actually when I'd really had Cindi for only about a year maybe. We were a very new team. It might have even been less time than that. And we were hiking in this kind of cliffy area in the mountains. The section of the path we were on at this time, and we were with other people, was about 3 feet where we were walking on of a path, and to our left it was just mountain, like rock, and to our right it was a very steep drop off, probably 25-30 feet down, and it wasn't sheer, it was more of an elevation, but it was very steep. So if you slipped down there, you were going to fall and definitely hurt yourself, because this was, again, jagged rocks. It was a canyon, so you don't want to fall down jagged rocks, very steep incline. It's just not good. We were walking, and I, as the supremely intelligent individual I am, was not wearing hiking shoes. So this was, again, very rocky and gravelly, and I just happened to step wrong with my right foot and immediately lost my balance and started falling down this cavern. What did Cindi do? She was like, we ain't doing that. And she yanked me to the left. Like, I was holding onto her harness handle, and like I kind of stumbled a little bit. She yanked so hard. And if she hadn't have done that, I definitely would have pulled her down just because of gravity, and we both would have probably fallen down that sheer cliff face. But because she's such a good girl, she was like, we ain't going that way, that's the wrong way, and yanked me to the left, and I caught my balance and thank goodness did not fall down that cliff face and hurt myself and my dog. So thank you so much, Cindi, for saving us from that one. Next, we are actually going to talk about a traffic check. So traffic check is when a dog displays, as I explained before, intelligent disobedience, where they go against what we've asked them to do. But traffic checks specifically relate to cars or traffic. So if the dog sees a car coming close or cutting us off, they will ignore the forward command or the hop up command. They will either stop if they can, they will back up if the car is going to hit us, or if you're really in the way, then they will run forward and get you out of the way of that vehicle. So in this particular occasion, I was actually walking on a sidewalk, which sounds crazy, and that's why I wanted to tell this story. Most times when you're thinking of traffic checks, you're thinking of walking in a parking lot or going through an intersection with a lot of traffic. But no, I was walking through a strip mall I'd never been to before, just walking past shops, and I had no clue that cars would ever be on this sidewalk. There was no indication that that would be a thing. Normally when blind people are crossing traffic, that's when they're on high alert. But I was just on a sidewalk, minding my own business, having fun. So we were walking and Cindi stopped. And I thought this was kind of odd because, again, we were on a sidewalk. And so I said, Cindi, hop up, and she refused. So I felt with my foot and there was nothing there. And I was just about to really kind of get after her. I thought she was being lazy, honestly. I thought she'd like maybe been distracted by something. She was looking at something. But no, she was doing her job and doing a darn good job, because the next second a car drove right in front of us, and I was really confused because, again, we were on a sidewalk. There was no indicator like truncated domes to tell me that there could be cars in front of us or behind us or wherever. Like normally truncated domes, which are those little dots on the sidewalk, tell you when you're going to do something that could potentially be dangerous, like there's steps ahead or you're walking into traffic, but there weren't any, which is a design flaw definitely for that area. So what had happened was there was a drive-through. So there was some kind of business, maybe a coffee shop or something, and they had a drive-through that the cars drove right through the sidewalk where the pedestrians were walking. And they didn't have any kind of curb or indicator that told you that the cars would drive through there. There was an indent, but it was very slow, like a very incorporated into the sidewalk indent. So I didn't even realize that I was going kind of down, but the color color of the sidewalk, the cement, like all of it was still the same. So I had no clue that cars could drive there. There was nothing to tell me that cars could drive there. Normally, if cars drive through a sidewalk, you have an actual cutoff of the sidewalk and you go back into the kind of asphalt that you have in driveways. No, there wasn't any of this. Cars just drove right through the sidewalk where pedestrians walked. So without Cindy, I definitely 100% would have been hit, because if I'd been using my cane, there was no reason for me to stop. And this was one of those quiet cars, so I didn't hear it. It would have hit me. Like there was nothing, there was no indicator, there was no reason for me to think that I needed to stop there. And this car had been going fast because this drive-through was surrounded by very tall buildings on either side. Again, bad design flaws. Someone going into emergency management, I can tell you this was really, really not smart on whoever planned this area, but the buildings were so tall that people who were going through the drive-through couldn't see past to see pedestrians on the sidewalk. So you're driving right through a sidewalk where pedestrians are walking through a strip mall, and you can't even have any kind of visuals to tell you that people are coming. So someone could walk right out in front of a car and the car wouldn't even know until it hit them. So long story short, Cindy displayed intelligent disobedience. She saw the car, she knew to stop, she ignored my command to keep going forward, and she kept me from being hit. So amazing job, Cindy. That's exactly what you're trained to do. That's what traffic checks are all about. And if I had a cane, I would have been hit. So I'm very, very, very grateful to my amazing poodle guide. My second most crazy story had to do with, again, crossing an intersection, but this one was quite a lot different from the bike story. We were at a very busy intersection in a very industrial part of town. The bus had dropped me off and I was going to cross the way I usually crossed for this route. I began to cross with the traffic because, again, I hear the parallel traffic, I know the patterns of the traffic, and I know when to cross, and I was crossing correctly. I gave Cindy that forward command and she led me again about 3/4 of the way through the intersection and started slowing down. This is a bad sign. You don't want this when you're working with a guide dog. You never want a dog to slow down in the middle of an intersection. So I told her to hop up, asked her to find the curb, and what she did is brought me to a large slab of cement. The corner was just completely blocked off by large cement barricades that were about 4 feet high. And what I know now, what I didn't know then, is that there was construction on that corner. And there wasn't any sound of construction. They weren't working on it at that moment, but they did have the entire area blocked off. So these cement pillars made it impossible to go and stand on the curb because that whole area was completely destroyed and dug up and being worked on. And so you were essentially standing right on the road, which is where Cindy and I were, because we couldn't go to any kind of curb. There was nothing there. And so I was kind of panicking just a little bit because we were standing right in traffic and the light was just about to change. It was a fast light and I knew we would be in a lot of trouble if the light changed and we were standing right in front of all the cars. So what I did is all I could do and ask the only other living being who actually had eyeballs to try to find a solution. So I told Cindy to find the way, which essentially in guide work is saying find the path that we need to go. It's pretty much saying I don't know where to go, you find it instead. And Cindy turned me left into the oncoming traffic, and I trusted her because I knew that she knew best, and she found me a small crevice between two of these large cement pillars, and it was really small. It was probably 2 to 2.5 feet, and I squeezed us both in there, and just in time because then the light changed and these cars were driving like a foot away from us. We were right next to traffic, but luckily we had been able to squeeze into the cement pillars and get out of the way just in time, and luckily we're not made into street pizza. So good job, Cindy, using those problem-solving skills, getting us out of the way. And yes, I did have some words with the city of Las Vegas with their construction. I have no idea why this isn't a regulation to put tactile cones up to stop people who are blind from walking in that direction, because there had been signs up visually to say don't cross here, but obviously I couldn't see those. So you'd think they would have put like cones up or maybe stanchions or tape or something to just say don't cross, but they didn't, so they got in a little bit of trouble. Finally, my favorite story that has to do with Cindy is what I call my airport story. So setting up the scene here, we were flying back from Canada, just Cindy and I. We had a transfer at SeaTac in Seattle, and we were on a little prop plane. Now this was a few years ago when we had those really big fires in Seattle, and my first flight had been delayed by about an hour, so we were just sitting on the tarmac waiting. And this was bad because I had a transfer and I had about an hour between when this flight landed and my transfer boarded. All of that time I was hoping to go through immigration and customs because I was back in the US and had to get all of that sorted out. And all of that time was drained away because of the smoke and the delays. So when we landed in SeaTac, I was right off that plane. Normally when you wait, you can ask one of the airplane staff once everyone else is off to walk you to a gate and help you find an agent. But at this point, I was about 5 minutes away from my next flight departing, at least according to my ticket, and I knew I had to get off that plane. I didn't have the time to wait. And I had asked, I had put in my notes and asked the airport to have someone waiting for me at the gate anyway. Well, because of the delays, I didn't have the agent that I had asked for and that they told me would be there. And I was freaking out because I was almost to the point where I was gonna miss my flight. And furthermore, because we'd taken a small prop plane and because I'm guessing we were late, what they did is they just let us off in the middle of the tarmac. So long story short, we were not in a safe area. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't see any airport or doors or anything. And I was on a serious time crunch. I knew I was gonna be late anyway, but I hoped I could at least make my flight. So I grabbed Cindy's harness handle and I just told her, Cindi, follow. Follow means, as it sounds, to follow people, and I was able to hear that other people were getting off the flight and everyone was late, so everyone was rushing around and hurrying. It wasn't really an environment where I could just ask someone for help because everyone was freaking out themselves. So what Cindi did was exactly what I asked her to do. She followed someone, some passenger or something, or the crowd of people. We went left and right and zigzagged and went upstairs and ramps and all over, but finally we went into some doors and we were inside the airport. So thank goodness for Cindi. If I had had a cane, that would have been a nightmare, but she got us where we needed to go, even though the gate agent that we requested hadn't been there. But it wasn't quite over yet because we were in the airport, but it was like dead silent. I was kind of creeped out because every single time I'd taken a flight, and I've taken many flights in my life with Cindi, I hear people, you know, you go into a gate, you have people waiting to transfer or get onto the plane that you just got off, you have gate agents, you have people going here and there, it's a very busy environment. For some reason, and it might have been because the delay and there was just no one departing from those gates anymore, but there was no one, it was silent. So what I asked Cindi to do was to go and find a desk because there were the people getting off my flight that I could hear walking through this area, so I knew that I was in the right place. Cindi had taken me where everyone else was going, but there was no gate agents. There was no one on the desk. There was no staff. And Cindi found me a desk just like I asked her, and there was no one there. So I said to her, find another desk, which she did. She found another desk that was empty. So she was doing the best she could do, guys. She was finding everything I asked for. She was maneuvering a new airport, a new place. She was doing so well. She found me the inside of the airport, but there was just nothing that we could do anymore as a team. Like, we were just going around. I kept telling her to find a desk and they were all empty. And luckily, some passerbys took pity on me. They probably saw my panicked look in my eyes and they were like, okay, we're gonna help you out. So they said, are you going to Las Vegas? Is that your transfer flight? And I said, yes, can I please follow you? And they were so sweet, complete strangers, didn't know who they were, but they took me under their wing and let me follow them. And again, this is where a guide dog comes in so handy. If I'd had a cane, I would have had to do like sighted guide with these random strangers, or it would have been weird. But instead, Cindi just followed them perfectly. We got on these large, because SeaTac has like these cart systems that get you all around the airport because it's so big. So we rode some carts, we went through customs and immigration, and Cindi was amazing. She knew to follow these strangers. We didn't even know who they were. She got me through the airport completely fine. We went through security and screening and everything was great, and I'm just so grateful because that situation was stressful enough as it was, but having a dog there to just help me get through that entire situation kept me safe and kept me from completely having a breakdown, freak out. So, I mean, this is why we travel with our guide dogs in plane, because crazy things like this happen and the dogs are there for when we need that backup. We were good. We were actually on our plane, the first ones on our plane. We got right to the gate and went right on, and then everyone else boarded and we left. So we were like, just barely made it on time. If I had waited for everyone to get off my flight and then gotten someone to try to help me, I think I would have missed it, because literally from the time I got to the gate to the time we took off was probably 10 minutes. It was like that fast. So that's how amazing guide dogs can be, and that's my favorite story of how Cindi helped me through a very stressful flight experience. I hope you guys enjoyed all of these crazy stories. If you have a working dog, a guide dog, a service dog, whatever it may be, and you think it would be fun to tell some fun guide dog, service dog stories of how your dogs have helped you, please feel free to do so. Let me know you've done so in the comments, or let me know what your favorite story from today was. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear about your dogs in the comments. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye guys.